So, I'm Hannah.
And I'm Matt Hanna.
And this is Horror Hour with the Hannas.
Home for all your horror movie needs.
So this week we are discussing Midsommar. And to make it even more fun, Matt's in charge this week of structuring, so we'll see how that goes.
I'm excited. So, we want to just jump in, talk about this movie. We should talk about when it came out, right?
2019.
2019 by Ari Aster.
Written and directed by Ari Aster.
He's the man. This was his second feature film after Hereditary.
Came out only a year later, I think.
Yeah, it was a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
And we'll say that Hannah and I are Ari Aster super fans. Except we haven't seen Beau is Afraid yet, so maybe we can't say it. But we did watch his student thesis film, so it puts us on that level, right?
It was a choice.
It was great.
Midsommar, we should know, is also starring Queen Florence Pugh. Love Flo. And she's amazing. She should have been up for an Oscar for this.
We should talk about that at some point.
What do you mean? Just
like jump into like how the Oscars are definitely kind of biased against horror movies, 100%. Even when they're on the level of Midsommar.
I mean, Toni Collette should have been.
Toni Collette should have been for Hereditary. Well, I guess we're talking about it right now. Yeah. I think that Mia Goth was correct when she talked about horror movies being prejudiced against when it comes to Academy Awards. Mm-hmm. But I also think that the movie she was in was X and Pearl, which are just not nearly on the same level as Midsommar Hereditary.
We haven't,
so it's like kind of funny.
Seen Pearl, so
you're right. I haven't seen Pearl, but I
heard she's amazing in Pearl.
I heard she's great,
but I don't know.
I think that it's tough. I think Midsommar is just operating on a whole different level from a lot of horror movies and a lot of movies in general.
Hey, we can give Get Out was up for.
That's true. Get Out was up,
but that's like Silence of the Lambs. Like how far? Yeah. It's so few in between.
Also, Nope is better than Get Out. And was it up for anything? That's a hot take. People are gonna be mad about that one. Nope is great though.
I don't really know.
Nope is so good.
I don't really know what my favorite of the three is. I really can't.
Oh no, I'm actually just
them.
being a piece of shit. I mean, Get Out's amazing, but I just think Nope is like what happens when you let a director like make whatever he wants because he succeeded in two previous films. I think it just it is so good. We definitely have to talk about it on here at some point. But right now we're talking about Midsommar. So, what's your background with this one? How many times have you seen this?
I'd only seen it once before this viewing with you. So I already knew the plot going in. I kind of knew it's not jumpy scary, more like suspenseful, but even that, not really, because I know what's happening. I think it's another one of those, it makes you feel uncomfortable horrors, which I, generally like more. But yeah, I knew going into it that I liked it. I watched it again, still liked it. Think it's extremely, extremely well done, and we're not really going to cover many more movies that are better than Midsommar.
It's a bold statement.
I mean, that's how you feel.
No, I think I just think it's funny to say that we won't cover much more. It's all downhill from here, folks.
Yeah, episode 3 and we're out.
Is this 3?
This is 3.
Oh, all right, good to know. My experience, this is probably my third or fourth time watching this. First time I watched it was with you. We didn't see this in theaters, which was a huge mistake. We did see Hereditary in theaters, which we can brag to people about, right? But
that one killed me.
Not a good theater experience for you?
Just so uncomfortable. So I couldn't sleep just because I felt like I was going to throw up after Hereditary. There's certain scenes in Midsommar, though, had I had my eyes on the screen, I would feel the same way. But I didn't because I knew what to expect, so I didn't look.
I'm just upset that we didn't see this in theaters. Big mistake. That's a regret I'll have. But I'm happy to see it. We watched it together. I watched this with my mom, too, at one point, which was a choice.
I'm sure the sex scene was really fun.
Oh, it was great. Mom. I mean, it was still hilarious and unnerving. And that scene, sex and horror go so well together.
I watched Black Swan for the first time with my mom, so
but you know what I mean?
Sex scene with
Debbie. It's funny and horrific and uncomfortable, and you get all these weird conflicting emotions that make your stomach churn.
I'm trying to imagine.
It is kind of funny.
I'm trying to imagine your mom's reaction to the Midsommar sex scene watching it with you.
I prepped her, but it is. I also don't like saying that the rape scene is funny, but it is so out there.
It's like the noises are so unexpected,
and all the women moaning with her.
That's what I mean
we'll get there.
by noises.
Yeah. The grandma pushing his ass so that he finishes sooner.
Yeah, it was a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah. It's good. It makes your stomach churn. It hits you with a lot of different feelings. But yeah, I saw this. This is like third or fourth time, and I've enjoyed it pretty much every time. This movie, as messed up as it sounds, leaving me like grinning from ear to ear when it ends.
When after this movie ends, you were like, I can't help but smile. I was like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, what am I marrying right now?
It's not because, how do I explain? I find that this movie, everything comes together in just such a perfect way that it's like watching a domino set go down, right? Except it's just that every little piece comes together and it comes together perfectly in a way that I can't help but just like smile and be happy with, like the way that everything just turns out. And just like, I really think there was so many little things going on, and it's like, this is a hard movie to end, and I just love the way it ends. So I don't know what else to say. I can't put it into better words.
Well,
when we get
cover
there.
it some more, yeah.
All right. 15-second summaries is where we're at now.
Okay. Are you
after I rambled. Yeah, let me pull the timer up.
You want me to go first or you go first?
You go first.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Go.
Oh, fuck, I panicked. Okay, girl loses family, goes to cult, friends get murdered, gets new family, ? That's it.
10 seconds. That was good. I feel like I don't know how to do anything better than that.
Give me the phone. I'm going to record you. Go.
Florence Pugh should just go to therapy instead of joining a cult, but, maybe good for her? ?
Okay. It was like 7.
Just kidding. It's definitely not. I love saying this movie's a good for her movie, and it is just not.
It is just not.
But it's. I like to try to argue it.
Just for funsies.
Just for fun. It's a lateral move, right?
You say that, yeah.
No, it is not.
I mean, in some ways, it's better.
Hit me with your hide count.
The Hanna hide count was 3.
For you. I'm Hanna too.
Yeah, but we all know the Hanna hide count only applies to me because you don't hide.
Well, I'll let you know when I hide during a movie. It'll be a big deal.
Yeah, I'll announce it.
Okay.
Like,
well, with even
like a bell, Barbarian, sirens. I thought was scary as fuck, and we saw that in theaters with our other friend Matt, and Matt were just like giggling the whole time, and I was like hiding in a sweatshirt.
Hannah almost left the theaters.
No, I did not. I kept threatening it.
You were scared to leave the theater,
I kept threatening I was going to leave, but I was not going to leave, and that movie fucking rocks.
It rules, yeah. It's a great
movie is fucking awesome. We've had 2 people request that we cover it out of the 2 friends we have. That
movie rips. So does this movie. We're going on tangents today. I like it. But I'm in charge, so I got to keep us on topic.
But you want to hear what made me hide, or should I say that when we kind of get to it?
No, yeah, let's wait.
Okay.
Because I think we're going to go through this in a different way. Hit me with your scream count.
0.
0 screams. Did I? No, you definitely screamed.
No, I didn't.
You screamed when the guy got hit in the head with the hammer.
I wasn't looking.
Oh, okay.
That was one of the hides.
I swear you looked and saw his gored up face and you screamed. No? Did I scream?
I probably was like, blah, 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 but not like a scream.
You just peaked the mic so hard.
Well, yeah, I have a lot of sound effects that don't go well with this mic.
No. All right. But did I scream?
I don't think you did.
Damn. It's unfortunate. Low for a kind of movie that we both love.
Yeah, but I think it's a different, like we said, it's a different kind of scary.
All right.
It's discomfort, suspense, scary. But we already knew what was going to be uncomfortable. So I was prepped to not, I knew when I couldn't look for me.
All right. So we kind of went over our general thoughts. And so the way I think while we were watching this, I pretty much said I don't know how I'm going to talk about this movie because I'm just going to gush over everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be really out there and go from topic to topic, which we already kind of do anyway. But I thought let's split this up into 3 acts. And I've separated our 3 acts of the movie. So we'll talk about Act 1 first, then go on from there.
Okay.
So for me, I believe Act 1 is from the opening of the film until they enter the town for the first time, going through that golden sun gate. And so this movie opens in a very horrific manner with Danny, our main character's sister. Played by Florence Pugh. Her sister sending her scary emails and... Right?
Well, specifically an email saying, I can't anymore, everything is black, mom and dad are coming too, goodbye.
Which...
So, beyond scary.
Immediately
the worst possible
scary.
Email you could ever get in your life.
And we'll jump ahead. pretty much the camera shot then at some point cuts to her parents in bed, believed to be sleeping. I think this is a really fun is not the right word, but clever choice to show them sleeping. And you're like, oh, nothing's wrong. And then all of a sudden we pull back each hallway, pulling back to finally getting to the garage where there are 2 cars running with like hoses from taped onto the exhaust that run into the parents' room and then to the sister's room. And we find out really the parents are not asleep, they're dead. And then we finally end on a shot of Danny's sister with one just up against her mouth, like fully, like she put it against her mouth, and she basically did a double homicide suicide. And then we cut from there to just actually it's her boyfriend Christian, right, answering the phone from her. And then it just screams, right? And it's this really
I think horrific. Even before that, there are details that I think are kind of set up the movie so well. So before we as the audience know that her sister and parents have passed, she calls Christian to be like, I got this email, it's stressing me out. And he is basically so apathetic. He's like, we all know, like, your sister suffers from bipolar. You're letting her get to you. It's just an obvious ploy for attention. And then she's like, yeah, you're right. Because she's so scared of needing too much support and, like, pushing him away. So I think the beginning, before we even know that they're deceased, already really sets up a really important dynamic between these characters. And then it basically shows that he is only still with her because now she's going through this.
Yes. So, and from that point on, we have multiple other kind of like small micro conflicts between her and Christian post family death. One of which is about going to Sweden for his research and really a trip for him and his buddies. And she ends up...
He didn't tell her.
So
right? Again, like, what a great partner. Like, he's planning this whole ass trip to another continent, and he hasn't even brought it up to her. And he plays it off like, well, your family just passed away. Like, I wasn't gonna go. Like, I'm gonna cancel it. And she's like, no, well, don't do that.
She guilts her into it.
Yeah. Like, there's definitely this guilt thing at play, but also the fact that he was kind of, like, deceiving her by not talking to her about it to begin with. Also, the friends that he's going with clearly don't want her involved or in his life, period, because they're, like, telling him that she abuses him by needing him.
Yes, yeah.
And that, like, she drags him through hoops and, quote, won't have sex. So, like, there's already this big dynamic at play that just continues.
And so, from there, I'm going to skip to the end of the act, and then I want to go back and talk about, like, the main themes of this first act, because I think we've already nailed most of them. But we eventually get to Sweden, where they start to get introduced to the family. They take shrooms, which I want to touch on what happens prior to that in a second. And they finally make it to the town, enter through that sun into this beautiful town. I feel like the whole theme of this kind of first act is setting up that relationship.
Say that Danny ends up going to Sweden.
Yeah. Sorry, we should say they get on the plane. She goes with them.
She gets invited. The friends are mad. Christian
I apologize.
Kind of had to do it.
Yeah,
Again, we would assume most people have seen it, but
yes. But I would say this entire first act is really to just show this conflict between Christian and Danny. It's like once we get past, obviously set up like the family death, but even from the very beginning, you even said it. There's this conflict about, oh, you know, she's just bipolar. Like, why does she always need you? And it's kind of just this being an unsupportive partner. And that's pretty much almost every scene. I feel like is him being kind of unsupportive up until that point. And then I think the last thing that happens, which we talked about before, is they get to, before entering the town, they're in Sweden. And remember, she doesn't want to take the shrooms right away. And everyone else is like, oh, we're going to take them. And he said, oh, I'll wait and wait for her. And they get mad because they're going to come up at a different time. So once again, she gets guilted.
That scene is so funny too, because they're like, well, you're going to come up at a different time. And Christian's like, well, why don't you just wait and do it for us? Like, for a second, he does the right thing. And then the friends just kind of like stare at them. And it's again, like, she has to be the one that's like, no, it's okay. I'll do shrooms now, even though I'm not mentally prepared and probably shouldn't be doing drugs.
So there are 4 or 5 moments just in this first, like, what I'm calling act, with Christian just being unsupportive, Danny clearly needing support, and then caving to whatever just keeps her in the relationship because she's extremely dependent on having this relationship, even though she's not getting anything she actually needs out of it. or any of the support she needs.
Yeah. And I mean, so Ari Aster, when he was asked to make this movie, he was asked to do like a slasher set in Sweden. And he was like, I don't really know how to go about that. I want to make a movie about two people experiencing relationship tension on the way to a breakup. And then those kind of things ended up verging together.
Was he writing about his own life? Do we know?
Yeah, it was inspired by his own relationships. Not like necessarily one, but he said like sometimes in a relationship you are the Christian, sometimes you're the Danny, and he's been both in a relationship. So like that kind of dynamic feels relatable.
He airs people out because we haven't seen Beau is Afraid yet, but I saw someone say that like his parents need to go into hiding after Beau is Afraid came out because it's like very clearly like an attack on his parents. At least we haven't seen it, so I can't say for myself. But
that's why Steven Spielberg.
Wait, I was just thinking that to make The Fabelmans, and that was the right call.
Yeah,
that movie's crazy. I love it. This is not The Fabelmans is not a horror movie, but go watch it. Spielberg's the man. So
but it's very clearly, like sets up the tensions in their relationship and the things that they're each like separately going through, and the end of this movie like ties that up.
So is there anything else that I missed in this first act that I think like plays into those themes of showing like the conflict between them?
Well, I will say conflict between them, no. Something I was going to add, though, that I thought was really interesting was, like, when they do mushrooms. Mm-hmm. All of the friends are clearly having a bad trip, and then Danny's just, like, chilling to begin with. She ends up having a bad trip, but that's someone else's fault. But, like, they're all clearly, like, freaking out. Christian's freaking out. Mark, just one of the friends, is freaking the fuck out. And then Danny's just kind of like vibing, like we're seeing grass like moving through her hands and her feet. Like the wind is blowing and everything's breathing, but it really shows that like she is connected to nature. And I think, this happens later in the movie. I think it kind of like shows her connection to like the cult.
Yeah, and like finding that connection.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll also say we didn't say the visual effects for all the trips are incredible. I think it's really cool the way that, and they like sometimes even hide them so you don't even realize that like things are breathing and swirling.
Like I haven't done shrooms, but this makes me
you want to
do shrooms. Okay. Like,
I would think it'd be the opposite.
Yeah, I feel like part of me is like, that sounds so nice, like being one with nature and like feeling that, seeing. But then you see a piece of meat breathing on the table that looks like lungs, and I'm out. I am out. Maybe the theme of this podcast is just scenes with meat that disgust me and make me want to stay indoors and eat a salad every day.
Well, now we got to add raw to the list.
Oh, well, we will. I kind of want to do that and release it while we're in France for our honeymoon.
Oh, that'll be fun. Raw's a French movie if you don't know. And it's great.
I definitely, we'll definitely have to cover some foreign language films because they're great.
So I have a question for you about Act 1.
Mm-hmm.
I really only feel for Danny in this act and see Christian as a complete piece of shit. But I feel like he isn't exactly. It is just how he's portrayed. I want to know, do you feel that like Christian is being harmed in this relationship at all? Like, do you feel like we should be maybe defending Christian a little bit more? Or do we think that everything that comes his way is like deserved?
Okay.
Maybe that's extreme.
Christian is murdered at the end of the movie. And so I'm not going to say that any of these characters deserve murder.
Fine.
But I will say that Christian, in another way, in a film sense, as not a real person, he gets what's coming to him. Because he is, again, not condoning murder, but Christian is a horrible partner. And I know that, no one knows how to deal with grief. Like, every person's reaction to grief is different. I don't think there's, one good way to be there for someone who's grieving. I don't think there's one good way to be there for a partner who struggles with mental health, which clearly Danny does before her, family passes away. I don't think there's one good way of dealing with that, but the start is to be empathetic and present, and he doesn't even master that. So I just think he's like a horrible partner. It doesn't make him a horrible person. Although there are other things in this movie that make him kind of a piece of shit. But as a partner, he's a garbage. And
I guess he's like only hurting himself and her by staying in the relationship. Like he should have pulled even with the family dying, he should have pulled the ripcord and would have like been better for her in the long run. And him.
Awkward to like be like, oh, your sister died by suicide and killed your parents. See ya, bitch. Like, you really can't do that. But at the same time, like, it was clear. It starts off before we know her family's past. The friends are already like, dude, you haven't wanted to be in this for the last couple years.
That's why I guess, like, I'm trying to, and I usually don't feel for Christian at all, but I was kind of thinking, are we supposed to possibly feel for him? Because it's clearly his needs are clearly not being met in this relationship either, because he's clearly unhappy.
But then he should have ended it.
Exactly. And I'm saying that. So it was more just a thought I had.
Like, everyone in a relationship deserves to have their needs met. And, you know, whether you want to say relationships 50-50, relationships 100-100, like, a relationship involves effort from both parties. And
she is giving
and I
effort,
know
and he is not.
She, needs effort from him, but he's giving a pretty consistent 0 to 10%. And she continues to be like, I need this. Oh, but you can't give it to me. And then she compromises over and over and over again. And I know part of that is because she doesn't want him to leave her because she's dependent on it, which I understand too. Like, as a person with anxiety, I know how that can feel. But at the same time, like, it's painful. Their relationship dynamic is rough.
Just something I wanted to think about, because like I said, most of the time I'm just like, Christian sucks.
Well, in the next act of the movie, he forgets her birthday.
True. We should get to that.
Like,
all right.
He's not a winner.
So let's talk Act 2 then. I think we covered everything in Act 1. It's great. I'm going to just keep saying this movie's great.
I know.
Because everything about it's great. Act 2, I say, is from the time they enter the town to the time where Danny and Christian are split up before the May Queen dance competition. So in this time, this is really about like learning about the cult, and you pretty much go from them singing kind of weird, odd commune to like, oh, these are murderous and insane people. And you kind of see that happen from this point onward. And all the friends are there. There's other people visiting. It seems nice. You know, they're doing their ceremonies. They said, you're here to see something that only happens every 90 years. And you think, oh, it's just like this nice little odd town. And you can kind of feel, right, that there's something under the skin of all this, but you're not really sure what it is until we finally get to what is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, which is that Addis step. Is that how I pronounce it?
I have no idea.
So what anything happens between then and the Addis step we think is critical to talk about in this delve into madness?
I do. Well, in that space before the ritual, whatever we want to call it, begins, Christian forgets her birthday, and she says, it's not his fault. I had to remind him.
Back to
or like, I forgot to remind him.
Yep.
Yeah, so that connects to the themes of Act 1. He doesn't remember how long they've been together. Like, someone asks and they give different answers. So again, I think it, contributes to, the same thing that we've already discussed. I also think it's really interesting that before the ritual begins, one of the friends hears the term Addis step.
Yeah, Addis step. I'm not sure.
We're dumb. We don't know. We didn't look it up. Maybe we should probably do our research better. But he knows what it's going to be. And he doesn't warn them just so he can feel superior over Christian. Mm-hmm. And that is so fucked up because the ritual is a suicide ritual.
Yes.
And Danny's family just passed away due to murder-suicide. So I just can't think of anything, literally anything in the world that was more insensitive than not, like, pulling her aside. Mm-hmm. Even if you wanted to feel superior to Christian by being like, I know something you don't know, that shit is so fucked up.
All the characters are pieces of shit.
Well, yeah, they definitely set all the characters up as
we're supposed to be dumb Americans who don't care about other people's culture, right? But their culture happens to be suicide and...
Yeah, it's kind of a hard one because all of the characters that pass away in some regard have done something wrong. But, like, they're fucked up. Like, we shouldn't be taking something away from them.
It's almost kind of playing into old, like, slashers where it's like the teenagers all did something wrong. Like,
yeah, 100%.
Did drugs or had sex. Like, the whole Scream rules.
That's true. Yeah. So I guess it makes sense.
Yeah. But this big set piece that I think is, like, one of my favorites is really built up in such a crazy way where we kind of have that dinner, right, with the two oldest guests approaching. And we are, like, the audience, don't know anything. We're the audience, we're like the tourists, don't know anything. And I think that Ari Aster does some really fun camera work to make us feel that way more by having the camera move up and down when characters at the dinner table or whatever, lunch table, sit or stand. The camera also sits and stands, like you're there as well. Mm-hmm. To feel like an outsider. Everyone else in the town is dressed in their white cloaks and all look the same when we're the outsiders. We're seated with the rest of the group. Old couple, I call them a couple, they're not, but a man and a woman come and sit, and they seem kind of solemn and weird, and you're kind of like thinking,
dressed a little different, you're wondering what's happening. Table.
And then when dinner ends, they stand up, get lifted up, and you're like, what is this ritual? Like, what's happening? And finally we cut to everyone around this, like, Pride Rock, I would call it, from The Lion King is what it looks like.
The most horrific Pride Rock.
You start in your head, it kind of takes a while.
Wait.
What?
It would have been a great time to sing Circle of Life.
Stop it.
I mean, they view life as a circle, Matt.
Point.
We give life as a gesture.
You're the worst.
Yeah, I just got really excited about it. Sorry.
That's funny. I saw you get excited. I was like, what am I missing? All right.
Just that the Hagra people are just about to break out into song.
I want to say this is my favorite scene in the movie, but I might have to say another scene. But I'm gonna go into extensive detail to talk about this scene because I think it takes a really long time. And you see this big Pride Rock, and you're like, are they gonna jump off of that? And you start thinking, you're like, no way, that doesn't make sense. And it, like, the first time I saw it, it's like you start building this tension of like, is this actually gonna happen? And they're up there, they're standing up top, and they do this like ritual where they cut their hands, and everyone's standing around, and you are once again standing back, like you're in almost the back of the crowd as they're all looking up, and you can see this full long shot where you see the cliff, you see all the people, and there's this amazing moment that I catch every time where a character that is someone that's part of the cult turns back and looks directly in the camera, almost to say like, oh yeah, what you're thinking is about to happen. And that's how it feels. They look right at you, look at you like you're the tourist watching. And then like a couple more things happen. They walk around. We get some shots of like where Danny would be standing looking up, seeing the elderly couple up top looking down. And then they cut to Danny, and the sound gets kind of weird, and it's her breathing. And it's just like, you trying to do effects with your big breath over there?
No, that's how I feel.
There's this like, you see her breathing and her taking breaths, and then instead of showing her jump off the edge initially, they show Danny's reaction to it first. Like her going to grab Christian's hand, taking like a big gasp, and then they cut showing the woman fall, smash her head on a rock on the bottom, her face implodes, it's super gory, and immediately we're in the PTSD effect, like noise effect that Saving Private Ryan did, where it's kind of the ringing and like you can't hear things that Danny's in. Seeing other people, of the tourists freaking out, panicking around there, and she's just numb and can't figure it out. And like Christian's like interested. One of the other friends is like clearly also like knew it was going to happen and is just not really reacting. Or is he's just kind of like, he's a little bit more numb. He has his mouth
covered, and he's like, oh my God, did that just really happen?
And then right after, before you even have a second to breathe, I'm sorry, did you have something to say?
No, you asked a question, and then you talked over me.
Sorry, I get excited.
It.
All right, so going back right after that happens, before you have a second to breathe, the elderly gentleman walks off the edge and goes feet first and hits and doesn't die. And his leg splits open. And he's laying there and screams. And all of a sudden, this is the first time this really happens. All right, stop making sound effects.
No, it's just like, it really bugs me so much. This is, if it's not clear by my reaction here, this is Hanna Hyde Count 1, but like a really long version because I knew what happens in the scenes. And it's brutal. It's really rough, and it's a little more graphic than I would want. Because we like see
but it's like it's really the first like graphic thing that happens. I think it really catches
that much that's graphic. Well, some.
I mean, you should see the sister with the hose in her mouth, and that's pretty gross.
But for, like, it's not the most graphic movie, but this really, really gets me. I don't want to see a smashed in face. I don't want to see someone attempt suicide and...
this is not the movie. This is not the movie for you then.
Yeah.
But so what happens from that point on is he begins screaming as he's not dead, and it's really like horrific. His legs bent backwards, like compound fracture sticking out, and everyone else begins to scream. All the other cult members, which is our first hint to like the radical empathy that they have. I would call it, where they almost like feel what each other feel, or they pretend to at least. And then
like showing each other support.
Yep.
We understand you.
Now, as he's laying on the ground, if it wasn't as bad enough already. His family members come over with a hammer and smash a big wooden hammer and smash his head in. And then once he stops screaming, the rest of the cult stops screaming. And I would say this is like that first moment of like, oh, this is a horror movie, right? Like we had some like family horror. This murder suicide's very like unsettling, and then this happens, and you're just like on the edge of your seat or hiding or just disgusted. And it's really amazing. And then they basically try to justify it, and they apologize to Danny. Yeah, they go, oh, we're so sorry for bringing you. We should have known better.
Well,
and
that's where they say, you know, like, this is a part of our culture. And everyone's like, no, that's heinous. And they say, we view life as a circle. We give life as a gesture. And they're basically saying that, like, suicide and, like, basically forcing these people to end their lives has a purpose in their practice.
And they continue to treat Danny very well, this cult. Even after she sees this, they try to, like, look after her, right? And
well, Pele, so we didn't specifically mention Pele, but he's a member of the cult that's friends with the guys, I guess, in their PhD program.
He's the one that brought them
and invites them there because you have to be invited. So Pele, like, does pull Danny aside and, like, talks to her and makes sure she's, like, feels okay. And he's telling her, like, I'm so glad you're here. Like, it was so important for you to be here with me. Like, I'm so glad you could come. I was most excited to show this to you. But then he also talks about how he lost his family in a fire. But he's felt so supported and held by the community, which he describes as his family. So he's kind of like telling her, like, I know this was horrifying, but these people really are like my family and they will hold you. And then he says, he's talking about her relationship with Christian and says, Danny, do you feel held by him?
And so I'd say this is the first moment where we start to see the cult try to like show that empathy towards Danny as well, which plays in later, right? This is like where they start to like really try to treat her nice, and it's clear that they're trying to show the empathy and provide her what Christian has not been able to.
Yes.
Which gets important in Act 3. So from this point on, things start to get a little bit more crazy.
This is where some of our characters like
I'll start to say after this. Up a little. So first the British couple try to leave.
So the British couple is like another
couple that was there.
Another cult member brought like
they try to leave and they disappear and are gone. I know the boyfriend is gone first, or the fiance, excuse me, he's gone first, and his fiance is there saying like, where is he? Where'd he go? And they're like, oh, he left. Excuse, yeah, they come with a really bad. They're not even good at lying.
They're like, oh,
but no one knows how to.
Fit one person in the car.
Truck. Well, he's going to come back for you, and then you end up hearing her scream later. Nobody really minds anything to it, and you don't see her again until the end of the movie. And then who do we lose next? Is it Mark next?
Mark, one of the friends, pees on their ancestral tree.
Which is their ashes of all of their dead.
Yeah, so a historic, like important to their culture. And so he's under deep shit anyway. So it's no surprise that during lunch or dinner, he gets pulled away. And he's definitely the fool of the group. So he gets pulled away. And our next person that in this, like, period of the movie that we lose is their other friend. He's the one who, like, knew about the cult ritual. The one that wants to do his thesis on them. Well, Christian does too. Say that at all in the synopsis. I don't even know if I know. We're not trying to do a synopsis. It's but yeah, basically part of, like, why he's there. I feel like Christian and Mark were kind of along for the ride, and then Danny's along for the ride with Christian. But this guy... It's William Jackson Harper. Oh, his character's name is Josh. Josh, like, wants to do his thesis there, and he's been, like, interviewing people and asking a lot of questions, and he gets to look at, like, their ancestral book that, like, It's like oracles predict
Which
shit
this should be another tip off that the cult's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Is this book, because like they basically breed. This movie's so gross. They breed or do inbreeding to create disabled children who become their oracles, and they say they're not clouded. Their minds are not clouded, and they basically just finger paint these books, and then the elders interpret the finger paintings and write what they want, which is clear that the cult is just writing whatever they want. And I really like that.
But Josh is looking at the book along with his other, like, pestering everyone with questions because he just wants to learn. But then they tell him, like, he's like, can I take a picture of the book? And they're all like, no. And then he goes back and breaks in to take pictures of the book, and then he gets attacked.
By someone wearing Mark's skin.
Yeah.
Which is also very scary.
R.I.P. Mark. R.I.P. Josh.
And I would say throughout this, they are continuing to kind of, like, work on Danny and try to, like show empathy towards her and be like, no, they went and did this. And they continue doing their lying bullshit.
They bring her in to, like, help her. Like, she helps prepare food, like the meat pies. And And
I want to talk about the redhead after Christian, but I think I'm going to save that for Act 3. We can go back and talk about what she's been doing that whole time.
Okay.
So from this point on, I think everyone other than Christian and Danny are disappeared, right? Everyone's gone.
Yeah, it's just the two of them
this
left.
This is where I would say the two of them are left, and they're like, where'd our friends go? And like, oh, they either left or did this, or they went off to do other things. And this is where I would say Act 3 starts, which we know the cult is bad. We know things are happening. And it's really where Danny and Christian are finally given their final, like, test with this cult. And I believe they take Danny first. She goes right for the May Queen dance.
They
correct?
kind of separate them at the same time. She goes to the May Queen dance, and he is pulled to talk to, like,
one of the elders about breeding, because they want him there to breed with one of the cult members, Maya, who throughout the movie has been very interested in Christian.
Giving him the, like, sexy eyes.
Yes, and she has been trying to make a love potion for him, which involves one, putting a ruin under his bed, and then feeding him her period blood and pubes. Which you can see in one. You can tell that his drink is a little more red than everyone else's drink, and he pulls a pube out of his mouth.
And then Mark is like, "Dude, is that a pube?"
Yeah,
like, that's a pube.
So he goes and gets pulled in there, and they basically tell him your astrological signs are aligned. You've been approved for breeding with Maya, which is this young girl that they want him to have a baby with.
We were kind of thinking, and I think this is an interesting detail, that astrological sign was code for white.
Yes, because they basically say earlier that they have to bring in people from out of the town to breed because they don't inbreed except for the oracles. But all of them are white people. There's not a single person of color in this thing.
And of the people who are past, it's like the British couple who are both people of color, Josh, who's a person of color, and Mark, who's an idiot, so they don't want him.
Yes. And so clearly they leave the one white guy.
This white guy.
I do kind of think so. They have him
he's an idiot,
for breeding.
But he's white, so
and then
good enough.
We end up cutting away from that. We don't really see that.
We don't see how he answers. Like, we don't know.
We have no idea what he actually said.
Yeah, we have no idea if he was like, yeah, sure, like, I'm in, or if he was like, fuck no. But then.
Yes. And meanwhile, Danny is now put in a cult suit, right? She's wearing the dress that the rest of them wear, and is involved in the May Queen competition, which is a dance competition where it's really dance up as long as you can. They give them, I think it was just another mushroom tea or another drug tea. And they basically just dance for as long as they can. And whoever's the last up wins. And Danny ends up winning. It's a really fun scene.
Sequence is really interesting because there's, like, part of it where Christian does come back and he's sitting in the crowd watching the events, and she looks over and everyone is wearing their white, doing, like, this hand gesture, and then there's Christian who looks like he doesn't want to be there, high as balls, like, miserable in his, like, dark clothes.
I don't even think he was high yet at that point.
No,
because they bring him something over.
Given him it already.
Okay.
And he's already kind of, like, whacked out.
She looks like she belongs there, and he looks, like you said, he's the one
And she frowns at him. When she looks over and sees, she frowns. And then, as they keep dancing, she, like, starts speaking Swedish,
Or it might just be gibberish, and they can understand each other because they're high. But either way, she starts to become more linked with them.
Yeah.
And I have a theory that they all flopped to let her win because they wanted her to join the cult. That was, like, kind of the point. Did you think that?
I mean, it would make sense.
And we see a wall of all the other May Queens as well, and I have a theory that all of them are also outsiders that were pulled in. And so they all, like, flop just to get her in. And then now But she wins, and immediately she's basically become one of the tribe immediately after that. Well, they're all dousing her flowers, right? Kissing her.
And after this, they like physically turn her away from Christian.
Yeah, they lift her up, they carry her, and she now has to go do a ritual, right? To bless the crops.
Shit, yeah. Yep. Blessing the crops.
And she's pumped. She loves it. These are like it almost feels like her family now. It seems like this is the first time she's like been happy in the movie.
And then we look over, and again, like, Christian is the only one out of place wearing something different. He's the only outsider now because Danny's no longer an outsider.
And I would say that's what Act 3 is about, is it's all about her strengthening and becoming one with the cult, and him becoming distant and being like an outsider. And that's also them splitting up, like their relationship ending, which, yeah, that's the theme of Act 3 for me.
Well, so the next part is the...
Danny goes off and does her makeup and stuff.
It's basically the Christian rape scene.
It's the rape scene, yeah.
Where
you don't know what he said, but he's under the influence, yeah.
He's under the influence, so regardless of if he consented or not previously, like, he's now under the influence very clearly. Like, he's very out of it, like, stumbly, like, he's definitely not able to consent. So... very uncomfortable. Like, I've heard people call it the sex scene, and it's like, I don't know about that. But
I'm going to be honest, this scene is, like, I've never seen anything like this in a movie, and I think it is, like, I don't want to say it's awesome, but it is so striking, is maybe the word, and disgusting. It's perfect for what this is.
So basically, it's like Maya's on the ground. She's like
waiting,
surrounded
and she's surrounded
by female ancestors who are all naked.
Some are
like,
old,
chanting
some are young,
and like moaning with her, and then they bring Christian in, and then Christian bangs her, and he's on top.
And they're moaning all, like, with her. As she's, like,
moaning with her.
And she's like reaching out to hold her mom's hand.
Yeah, literally holding mom's hand while she's fucking.
And then Grandma comes around and is pushing Christian's ass to, yeah.
So he finishes, and then
she immediately is like,
oh, I feel the baby.
I feel it. Yeah.
And I'm like,
and he looks high as shit, and immediately has like post-nut clarity and his regret, and runs out
away,
naked, and they're all making weird noises.
Hanging
and stuff.
dong, like,
oh yeah, this movie has.
Out.
Oh, I love that. We always say more movies need to have male full frontal nudity, and it's messed up that they don't. And so, like, let's go.
Sunny,
yeah,
really
gotta hang dong.
Because
they always show women naked in movies; they never show men naked. And I think it's kind of fucked up.
And that was actually Jack. I forget his last name, but the actor who plays Christian talked a lot about how he thought it was really important that his character had his dick out, especially because
I agree with him, but I don't know why.
Well, I think part of like why he said that was because in so many movies, like, women are vulnerable, and so it's important for him as like a male and a male character to have to be vulnerable in that way. And
he's the most vulnerable character in the movie at that point.
Yeah.
The most at risk. We should also say Danny also comes back and looks through the keyhole and sees this happening and is devastated.
And so she runs away, like, and this is scream crying.
This is my second favorite scene in the movie, is what I want to say. Sorry to interrupt you, but this scene,
great scene,
I think this scene gives me like goosebumps in like a good way.
So she runs away, scream, crying, heaving, and they all like start holding her from behind, like all the other like women up, or like laying on the ground next to her while she's like leaning over, like scream crying, and they're all doing the same, and so they start making the same noises as her, and then when she starts to and screaming with her and holding her while she screams,
and then they match up, it almost like links up, so it's all at the same time together.
And then when she starts like kind of like just heavy breathing, like hyperventilating, they're doing the same breathing with her, like, we feel you, girlfriend, we are with
which is
you.
Another moment of the radical empathy, which is, and we'll get to this at the very end, but the thing that Danny was like missing in her life, right? So they basically filled that void perfectly that Christian wasn't filling for the empathy that she needed. And I think that they just like matching up with her as it's happening was just so cool and like really well shot. The sound design is just awesome.
From here, like, the movie's just kind of like running to an end.
Oh, it accelerates.
Christian is running around, dick out.
He starts finding the bodies.
He finds the dead body of one of the people. I don't think it was his friend. I think it's one of the British couple that was also murdered. And then he gets knocked out, and then he wakes up.
He finds the one with the lungs out, right?
Yeah, which is disgusting.
Flayed or whatever. There's a name for that. I can't remember. The Vikings did it.
Yeah, I think it's
Bloody Angels or something. Bloody
But
wings.
he gets knocked out. And then when he wakes up,
like a paralytic.
He's in the fucking wheelchair in his little white cult nightgown thing. And then Danny's there as
with
the May
with
Queen,
all the flowers over her.
Covered in flowers. And so they talk about how every year for their like ritual, they end in a suicide or
a sacrifice of 9 people.
Some are outsiders, some are the members of the cult who brought in outside people, and the last person gets to be picked by Danny.
Yep. And she gets the choice. To be exact, it's 4 outsiders and then 4 people that brought outsiders.
No, it's 2 people
you're right.
and then
it's
the 2 elders.
It was the 2 elders, right? And the 2 people that
yeah.
brought the outsiders forfeit their own lives by bringing in sacrifices, except for Pele, who gets rewarded because he brought the May Queen.
Yeah.
Right? Which so it's very clear he was looking to maybe indoctrinate, bring people into the cult. And then she gets to pick a randomly selected member or Christian.
And so we don't actually see her make her choice.
I think they just show her face, and it's like her frowning.
Her face, but we don't see her make the choice. We then in the next scene, it's Christian being stuffed into a bear, and he's still paralyzed. Carcass. And then the scene after that is all the bodies being put
Mark's skin suit is there, and all their friends' dead bodies are there. Along with 2 living guys as well.
The 2 deceased members of the cult, 2 living people, and then Christian still paralyzed in the bear costume in the middle.
And they light it up.
I think it's interesting. They tell the 2 living members of the cult who are dipping out. They give them an. I guess
it's supposed to be a pain reducer.
They're
the U tree or whatever.
Yeah, they're feel no pain, and then you see those 2 guys screaming in the fire later.
It is
so
a
the
lot.
cult's full of shit.
This movie's so good. I'm sorry. I'm just thinking about how I can picture all this stuff in my head. The cuts from inside with everyone on fire, and the cuts outside of the thing. And when they start screaming, immediately everyone else in the cult starts screaming with them. And Danny now is walking around in her flower suit screaming.
She looks like
she's a part of them. A slug? Yeah.
A slug. She looks like a slug.
But she's screaming and they're all doing it. And there's this shot of Christian just in the middle, paralyzed in the bear. His face is outside the bear suit. And eventually he goes up in flames as this whole building does. And everyone's screaming. Like I said, Danny's now one with them, right? She is now showing this radical empathy. And I believe it ends with her shot and a frown.
She stops screaming. And then it's just looking and frowning. And then that frown slowly turns into a smile.
A big smile. And so does my face watching it. Turns into a big smile. And then I believe it cuts. And that's when the movie ends and they start playing. There's a needle drop and the credits roll. And I'm sweating and I've got a big smile on my face because I just love the way this all comes together.
So, basically...
She broke up with him. Sorry.
Well, yeah, she did break up with him.
We got there finally.
She finally did it.
We took a lot of steps, but we got the right answer.
But, we begin as Danny loses her family, and we end as she gains one. They provide exactly what she's lacking, like we said. The empathy, the support. Christian was never there for her, and she finally, whether it's
which is why it's a good for her movie. She killed her boyfriend, then she broke up with him. Got a new family, right?
Yeah.
Can't argue with that logic.
Breaking up with your partner and gaining a support system. Great.
Joining a cult where you have to kill yourself at 72?
And murdering your ex-boyfriend.
Not great.
Not
lateral move then, right?
Way to handle things.
I can't help it. I know that's not, but I think it's just so genius to show it is really easy. And this is what cults do in real life. They look for vulnerable people and they try to provide you what you're missing. And that's exactly what this cult does. And it's genius. And it works on me. I know it's wrong, but I can't help be yeah, Danny, you got it. And that's why I think I smile. Movie sense. Maybe I'd get pulled into a cult.
No, I think it's different in a movie sense to be good for you, honey. He deserved it.
Oh,
but
I know.
In real
but
life,
you fell for
would
it.
you be he deserved it? No,
no, not at all. And I'm saying, I've seen people say that if you think that the Midsommar is a good for you movie, you could very easily be pulled into a cult. So that's me.
All right, honey.
I know that it's not, but I just think I think it's set up so well.
I think you might be in a cult already. But basically, Danny removes negative people from her life, and she finds positives to gain people who surround her, breathe with her, scream with her, like empathy that's unconditional.
Yeah.
Ish.
Ish.
She's in a cult, so
I know, that's why it's so hard to talk about it, because it's like I think it's that is like the theme, right? Is that she finds someone to fill that void. However, like they're only doing that to get her into this cult, or maybe that is their culture, so it was perfect for her.
Pele said that too, but that is the culture.
That is the culture.
That his parents passed away in a
in
fire,
the fire, which is clear that they were
They were sacrifices, and that like the cult helped him, and he felt held by the community.
Yep.
So I think like Pele, whatever his name is, like I think he genuinely, I kind of feel like he genuinely believes it.
Yeah. No, I think all the people there
like,
to believe it. I think maybe once they turn 72, that's where they start not being so sure.
Well, probably when they are told they have to die, they're probably out.
But they choose that going in. I mean, well, the children don't, but anybody joining. But like you said, this is what cults do in real life. They like want vulnerable people. And so I think that is kind of part of the point as well. And it does work, right? Because it does kind of make you feel that way. I think it's similar to, you've never seen Starship Troopers.
No.
But that movie is like about fascism. And it like tries to make fascism look really cool. And I think when people watch it, they're like, oh yeah, this is cool. And then it's kind of a gotcha. Like Neil Patrick Harris literally comes out in like a Nazi suit at the end of the movie. And it's like, gotcha, like you liked fascism, right? This was cool, right? As like a joke, like, yeah, you're a piece of shit for liking this. I feel like this does the same thing where it's like, gotcha, you would have joined the cult. You get it, right? And it kind of pulls you in, which like it is clearly anti-cult in the same way that Starship Troopers is anti-fascist. But like it's still like I think it kind of is giving you that gotcha moment, which is why it leaves me grinning ear from ear. I think it's so smart. But that's it. I mean, I want to go through. My
question for you, does this make you more or less interested in visiting Sweden? Sorry,
I can't even answer that. Neutral, lateral move.
Well, this is not. To be fair, obviously. So
yeah, this is what all of Sweden's like.
Sweden is like, but this isn't even like what Midsommar is at all. They didn't even pull like besides the whole like days are long, like the rest of it isn't Midsommar. They pulled like a lot of like pagan traditions or like old historical things. Like they found stuff that was evidence of some of these practices in like museums and stuff, and they were like, that sounds scary, cool. So to be clear, if it wasn't already, this is not Sweden, this is not what Midsommar is, but did it make for a very scary movie? Yes.
I think it's really funny that we have to say that. You guys, Sweden is safe, I'm sure.
Well, I went to Sweden. It was beautiful.
I know, it was beautiful in the movie too.
That is true. They got that right, for sure. They didn't even film in Sweden.
So I'm gonna jump to the next thing because I want to ask. I don't think I need to talk about what this movie did well because I think I just rambled this entire time about what this movie does well. Is there anything else you want to add to what you think this movie does well?
Whole movie looks beautiful. I think it's shot really fun. There's a lot of like really cool long takes. The colors are beautiful, especially like in the cult itself. It's very bright and vibrant.
This is an auteur firing on all cylinders, from the writing to the direction to the cinematography, everything. And then also Florence Pugh is knocking out of the part as an actress. Everyone in this everyone's
doing a really good job. Obviously the story is extremely cohesive. There's like nothing in this movie that doesn't work.
I was about to ask, break my heart. Before. Tell me what didn't work, but nothing for you.
I don't really think there's anything that doesn't. I think it is a long movie, and like part of me wishes it was shorter, but it certainly did not. I didn't feel like
it's a fast 2.5 hours. It is I feel like it's fast. I think it's because that third act accelerates. You were flying through there. And I guess we talked about what this movie means, what its purpose and themes. You got anything else you want to add for that?
No.
Yeah, I think we covered it. This was a different way for us to go through it. So I think we get to the last thing, ratings. And I want you to go first on your rating.
What did I give the Babadook?
Well, this is going to be out of order, so you're confusing our viewers. We didn't watch the Babadook yet. What do you mean, Hannah? What's your rating?
We did watch this first, but we did that episode. We recorded that episode.
Don't lift up the curtain.
Well, I'm trying to remember what I gave that, because I would give this higher.
I think you gave it a 9. Or
no,
8.
I gave it like a 9 point something stupid.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't expect to remember.
I'm going to give it 9.5.
9.5. Coming to me? It's my turn?
Yeah, you're clearly itching to tell everyone it's a 10.
This movie is a 10 out of 10. This is a rare 10 out of 10. This is a perfect film and a perfect horror film. There's nothing I would change about it, nothing that should be added or removed. I think Ari Aster made a masterpiece here. And I think prior I would have said I liked Hereditary better, but I think I don't want to say it. I don't think Hereditary is going to get a 10, but I think Midsommar gets a 10 for me every day of the week. So
I know what my perfect 10 is, but
don't spoil.
You did in another episode, I think.
Well, sorry, we'll get there when we get there. So I think that's everything we got. Go watch Midsommar, please, and see everything Ari Aster makes. We're pieces of shit for not seeing Beau is Afraid yet. We need to put that on the list. I don't know if that we can do it for the podcast, but maybe.
Yeah, we don't. What genre even is it?
I'm not sure. He's only made 2 horror movies prior to that, so. But go watch everything Ari Aster made. Go find a student film. You can find it on YouTube. It's also really cool and disgusting.
Yeah, he's got a whack-ass brain, this guy.
I love it. I want to watch everything he makes.
I would be so scared to live in his head. I'm worried about that.
There are like 3 living directors that I want to try to see everything they make, and I want to support everything. Maybe 4. And that's Ari Aster, Jordan Peele, Paul Thomas Anderson, and probably Tarantino. Although I haven't seen everything he's made, I feel like I just should, because he was only got like 10 movies, so. But Tarantino, I like him, but I think Paul Thomas Anderson, Jordan Peele, Ari Aster. I want to see everything they make. All right. I think that about does it. Anything else you want to say about Midsommar?
That it made me want to throw up.
In a good way.
In a great way. That's going to be a common theme, is that I'm going to be like, where is my Zofran prescription?
I want to end on that. It makes you want to throw up in a good way. Go see it.
Yeah.
All right. We good?
Yep.
I'm Hanna.
I'm Hanna. Thanks for joining. See you next week.